Can you believe we're already halfway 2026? You know, at the start of 2026, my goal is to read 26 books. Currently, I've already read 14 books. Yay! So, which means I'm officially more than halfway of my goal. So, I thought this is a great time to have a mid-year check-in of my reading journey. So, one thing I've observed this year is that I find myself craving for deeper and more thought-provoking books. And gladly, most of the books that I've read this year or halfway this year are thought-provoking, heartwarming, and deeper. For today, I'll be sharing the books that made me think a lot of things and deep books that I've read. Yeah, and most of these books are I rated like 4 stars and above. So yeah, let's talk about this. I picked up The Grapes of Wrath expecting a classic, but I didn't expect it to break my heart. And that was my feelings after reading The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. Basically, The Grapes of Wrath is a historical fiction wherein it is set on 1930s in the Great Depression era in America. So it follows the Rhodes family and their journey to California to get a good life and to search for work and better future. Along the way, the story paints a powerful picture of hardship, of courage, of hope, and also the strength of people trying to get by or trying to survive against overwhelming odds. So what made me pick up the book? First, I love John Steinbeck. I've already read a lot of his books. Well, a lot, like 3 books. Like Is of Eden, Of Mice and Men, and The Pearl. Actually, I have the hard copy. So The Grapes of Wrath, I bought it like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago already, kasabay nung Is of Eden book. However, I hadn't had the chance to read it because when I am trying to read it before, I felt like it's too deep and too hard to read. Well, in fact, it is. It's deep and it's hard to read because John Steinbeck didn't shy away from the harsh truth of life, and you will really feel the hardship and the journey of the characters trying to survive every day. And also after reading 3 books that are kind of like meh for me, like sakto lang, parang hindi ganun ka deep. After that, I crave something deeper or meaningful. So I did read The Grapes of Wrath, and it did not disappoint because, as mentioned to you, it's hard to read, yes, but it is also a book that will make you think or question life as it is. Maybe people will find this book too preachy, but as for me, it is the right type of preachy. And what I like about the book is that it is true, it is cruel, it is unrelenting, and yeah, this is not a happy book to read. Every time I thought that the Jode family, they will finally see the breakthrough, ang nangyayari, their life become worse. So yeah, it's really hard. Like the story is very cruel for the Jode and the other families in California. Their life continue to be desperate. Every scene na strip away yung humanity nila, yung comfort nila, yung dignity nila, and their freedom. And yet, even though I mentioned that it is a hard book because of its themes of survival or of hardship, it is not fully that. The ending is still, it's still cruel, but it is not entirely bleak naman. There's this one character that I really hated the whole of this book, but that character's final scene sets the tone. That character had shown that there is hope after all. That in her final act is kindness. And then that kindness offers a glimpse of hope within the family and within the community. And it is a powerful symbolism of compassion in this book. The book is really hard to read. I mean, you'll get depressed when you read this. But again, you will also learn that even though in the worst times of life, there will be people who will be compassionate and who will be kind. And I think that's human. So I've given this book 5 stars because it's that good. I thought the Poppy War was dark. Then I read The Dragon Republic. The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang picks up after the devastating events of the first book, following Rin and what remains of the Psyche as they navigate the aftermath of war and become entangled in an even larger political conflict. If you thought the Poppy War was gruesome, think again. This book is darker, more brutal, and far more emotionally exhausting. One of my favorite aspects of this book was learning more about the shamanic power, the history of it, the history of the gods and goddesses, and how it connects the political war, and that makes it more fascinating. And I actually love and hate the main character here. Our main character is Rin. She is really annoying. Actually, not annoying, but more like very frustrating to read because of her. And I understand people who hates her character here because, I really also kind of hate her decision making, her recklessness, her impulsiveness, and her decisions kasi affects other people too. It impacts a bigger picture kasi. But again, I also understand Rin because she is a product of war, of violence, of trauma, and then she needs to be responsible enough now because the person she's closest with before and the team leader of the Psyche are already dead. So sa kanya na ibigay yung responsibility of being a leader, and she doesn't know how to be a leader, and now she has this big responsibility to survive and for her teammates to survive also. So we understand why she's very impulsive, she's reckless. That complexity also is what makes her compelling as a character. And what I love about this book is that the characters are not black and white. They have gray areas too. There are no clear distinction between heroes or villains. Because Rin, sa lahat ng pagkukulang niya, you should understand that they are in a war. And in war, you need to be decisive and also you need to survive. And for her to do that, she needs to act a certain way, or she needs to be part of a certain political power, even though she does not fully approve of that political power. So yeah, because life is not black and white, there are a lot of gray areas. Sometimes you need to do what you need to do for you to survive. The Dragon Republic is quite a heavy read. It's violent, it's political, and it is emotionally draining. And this book is thought-provoking. Up until now, I'm still questioning a lot of Rin's decision. And yeah, it is impossible to put down. Will I read the 3rd book? Yes, I will, but not, I think, this year because still emotionally drained. My head really hurts when reading this book kasi it's very tiring or frustrating talaga yung mga nangyayari sa kanila. So, you will understand that ang hirap niyang pagsunod-sunurin na basahin. I give it 5 stars because of what I've mentioned earlier. Corrigan by Caroline Blackwood follows 3 fascinating characters. Corrigan, a charming conman, Mrs. Blunt, a lonely widow longing to be reunited with her late husband, and Nadine, her distant daughter, who becomes increasingly suspicious of the relationship forming between her mother and Corrigan. What starts as a simple encounter quickly turns into something much stranger and more unsettling. I really love this book. I didn't expect anything from it because I've watched this video and sobrang high praise siya dito sa librong to. I don't know about this book actually, but I picked it up and surprisingly, I love it. So I really enjoyed this book. It seems like when reading this book, it's like a long exposition of thoughts and observation of people. But surprisingly, that is what drew me in to continue reading this book. Maybe because that's what I need that time. I need to, to be part of the inner thoughts of people. That's what Corrigan is kasi. It explores the human psyche, or it explores people more than the mystery itself. So the book examines love, grief, loneliness, manipulation, and the stories we tell ourselves. And as the novel unfolds, mapapaisip ka. It's very thought-provoking. So the lines between victimhood and villainhood is kind of blurred here in the story or in this book. And I really enjoyed the twist at the end. The twist is not the twist that you thought the twist is. Ano daw? Basta, yung akala mong twist, you thought you figured it out like in the first pages of the books. Pero hindi pala yun yung twist. So I really enjoy that. It's more of like the observation of human psyche. So ayun nga, the twist, it surprised me a bit. But I somewhat expected it, but not in that degree. Overall, this book is kind of strange, clever, and surprisingly interesting. And sabi ko sa sarili ko na I'll definitely read more of this author, Caroline Blackwood. I rated this book 5 stars. Highly recommended. If Miss Marple owned a tea house and had absolutely no respect for other people's boundaries, you'd get Vera Wong. Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jess Q. Sutanto follows Vera Wong, a widowed Chinese grandmother who spends her days running her tea house, drinking tea and giving unsolicited advice. But when she discovers a dead man in her shop one morning, she decides it's up to her to solve the murder. So if you know me, you know that I love a cozy detective mystery, and I love reading about some amateur sleuth or grandmothers who tries to be a sleuth. What I love most about this book is the found family trope. So because of what happened on the tea house of Vera Wong, she met people, some broken, lonely people, and they became like a family. Yeah, actually, this is a very heartwarming story. I didn't expect that I'll be a little bit emotional reading this book, but I did. And I actually root for every suspect in this story because, the man that had been murdered in this book is really a bad man naman talaga. So parang deserve naman niya din yung nangyari sa kanya. So I really rooted for all the suspects. My heart aches a little bit knowing that one of them could be the murderer and they will get imprisoned because of that, even though the victim deserved everything that had happened to him. And then also, one of the things that I love about this book is the comforting feeling it represents Asian culture, that it is very familiar, like the dynamics between family, the cultural expectation, the relationships felt more relatable, and that adds warmth when reading this book. Overall, this is a good book, a cozy mystery book. It's a palate cleanser again because I've read a very serious book before this. So yeah, I rated it 5 stars because it's good and it makes me emotional. I'm not sure if it is because I'm just emotional that time, or is it because the book is that book that will make you emotional. Highly recommended. It's very heartwarming and cozy, and it's an easy read. So, if you want a cozy mystery and an Asian representation, this book is for you, for us Asians. I spent most of this book wanting to throw Lord Henry out of a window. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde follows Dorian Gray, a handsome young man who wishes to remain forever young while his portrait bears the marks of age and sin. As he falls under the influence of the charming but morally questionable Lord Henry Wotton, Dorian begins a slow descent into corruption while his portrait reveals the consequences of his choices. So I'll be honest, at first reading this book is quite hard. Ang lalim kasi ng English na, and it's long conversations between two characters that I don't really agree with morally. I can't understand their perspective, and also it's in Old English style of writing, so it's harder. So what I did, I remember, oh, this is a classic, so I just think that there will be a free audiobook for this book. So I searched and found one. So while reading in my Kindle, I also listened to an audiobook of this story. When I did that, it's much easier for me to understand them na. Well, I still don't agree with their values and their perspective, but now I understand their Old English. It's easier when there's an audiobook when reading this book. Let's start with what I don't like about this book. So I don't like Lord Henry Wotton. Well, he corrupted the mind of Dorian Gray. Doon talaga nagsimula ang lahat. Because of Lord Henry Wotton's ideologies and values and morality. But again, Dorian Gray has his own mind, so why should he listen to this guy? But again, he's just a young person, young boy who wishes to be beautiful forever. So ayan, nakorrupt talaga yung mind niya. Another thing that I don't like about this book is that we get long conversation about morality, about the English life. But yung mismong mga scenes or actions ni Dorian, it's like behind the scene na lang siya, na you'll be surprised that biglang tumalo na yung years, like after like 10 years, 20 years, I forgot how many years yun. Bigla na nag-jump. Sana they put more of Dorian's journey to corruption written in the book than making it like a background thing. But what I love about this book is the ending. The ending is a chef's kiss. Buti na lang talaga tinuloy-tuloy kong basahin tong librong to, because if talagang hindi ko siya tinuloy, hindi ko mababasa yung ending, and the ending is really, 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 really good. Though, yeah, dun sa pag-jump naman, nakakita na talaga tayo doon na sobrang Dorian Gray is very corrupted, na very sinful, very deceitful, manipulative. Yeah, I don't want to divulge anything about the ending because that's the surprise, that's the mystery. Yun nga, the ending is very dark, but it is very satisfying. Before the ending, I get really frustrated because there's no consequences on what he did. Like, there's no justice for the people, for all the things that he'd done in this book. Yeah, actually, I didn't give this 5 stars. I only gave this, I think, 4 point something. Because, yeah, there are like some things that I don't like about the book. But the ending makes it worth it to give it more than 4 stars.